Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief. Happy post-Fed day. And wow, have we ever seen some assets move around in price? Let's first
welcome back to
check to make sure YouTube page is working, so that's good. And I see a few people over there, so good morning, people on YouTube. Today is Thursday, October 31st, Halloween. Happy Halloween. And actually, not really fair to Julian, but it is, Halloween. Poor guy. You'd think that he'd be out doing his trick-or-treating and all that, but no. He is TRI committed, and so he's reporting in from the trenches of Thailand, Bangkok maybe, to do the baby powder report today. Hey, are you there, Julian? No, do not. All right. Well, anyway, he's in the jungles of Siberia.
I'm here. Yes, I'm here.
All right. Well, good morning.
I'm in the rural jungle of Bangkok, in the middle of a cafe.
Yeah, I mean, all I wanted to do was just point out that very nice of you on Halloween, entertaining, having fun, partying. Nope, I'm a professional. Today is my day to do my presentation, and he is here. So thank you very much.
Yes.
As well, and how are you doing this evening? How are you feeling?
I'm okay. I'm a little tired, but I'm okay.
All right. So,
I'm ready to go. Got some stuff to talk about. I'm a little disappointed with the, two things. I'm a little bit sick. I don't know if you guys can tell my voice maybe sounds different. The other thing, I am disappointed the Fed lowered interest rates again because I have a pretty decent size savings account that is now, over the past 3 months, the amount of money I'm earning from it has been cut down significantly. So a little disappointed about that. So we can talk about that later in the show.
Okay. Might be interesting to see how the Fed changing interest rates has affected things like Thai baht and stuff like that. So super jazzed to get your report here today. And as well, I've been talking up your gold fade trade from last week on YouTube. So everybody's waited with bated breath to see what Julian sees in the gold chart.
All right, I have a lot to talk about with gold for sure.
Right on. Okay, so just an overview before we release the Julian, and FYI, he's in a coffee shop in the middle of Bangkok that's going to close here in the next hour. So we probably want to give him the spotlight to begin the show here, and then maybe I'll just do some follow through and maybe make a comment on something, any of the points that Julian's made. But just to start us off out of the gate, obviously we had the Fed event yesterday, and clearly the reaction on the other side of it, and we also maybe have to think about what are the catalysts going forward for the market? We don't have earnings season ahead of us. Now that's done. And most of the companies have reported. There's still a few stragglers. Things like Facebook and Google, I think, reported today. And the numbers are coming in relatively positive. No fear of sort of earnings recession. We now don't have the Fed. The Fed is basically done, and the comment that I saw coming out of the back end of the Fed was, yes, we lowered rates this time, but we are now officially on hold. Of course, they said they're data dependent, so of course, if the market does continue to crap out, then they can respond. But the general tone that I got from the Fed speakers was, look, enough is enough. And we will be officially on pause now. So we don't really have any catalysts from our earnings. We don't have any catalysts from interest rates now to worry about. So the question here now becomes, okay, what is going to drive the market? And here we are back to what basically dominated the market for the past, probably couple quarters, and that's all this China trade deal talk. And the Chinese came out overnight expressing some skepticism as to whether they would actually have some sort of trade deal signed. If I understand correctly, they have these things called the APEC, Asian Pacific Economic Conference, or something like that, regularly, and the Chinese and the Americans had agreed that they were going to sit down at this APEC conference, which was coming up here, and hash out this deal. And unfortunately, the APEC conference is in Chile right now, and Chile is deteriorated into an absolute mess. So the APEC conference was put on hold, and Mr. Trump sort of feverishly came out this morning, and one of his lieutenants, Larry Kudlow, both of them together are like, oh, no, 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 everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine. But clearly the market is a bit skeptical. The gold market, the bond market, the yen market, all moving up nicely. Those people that traded the bonds, I'm hearing that they're now hunting for reload zones to strap on the position again. I've got my bond trade as a TRISOF. I'm not really in any hurry to touch it. And I'm just going to let it work. We talked about the yen and the bottom of this megaphone. Clearly that was a catalyst. And we could do some serious exploration up top. And interesting, this gold has come to this apex in price action here. We never did really fill in this gap to the downside, so I wonder if that's a bit suspicious. We're now rallying up into this empire. We're into the wick where people like Julian were fading gold last week. So we'll see whether they have an appetite to come back in and hit this thing. But it feels, like I said, it's almost like there's like a, heading into that Fed announcement, I can understand, sort of the previous trend that was dominating the market, all these risk-off assets heading down. I don't know whether that tone has changed. And, we talked lots recently about the S&P 500, right up against key resistance, 113 fibs, and this little trend line here, and you can see the market's really having a hard time. Do I actually accept these new levels, implying that we could push higher? And interesting enough, I kind of think that's the same thing with Bitcoin, in that. Last night we were setting up this bullish bot that we've been sort of following along here. Did we get indications of it's time to front run this bot level to try and sneak in ahead of time? We had this double bottom that was potentially forming, and even on last night on the site, I was posting these kind of setups. Went over to OKCoin, loaded up the machine, just getting ready for the potential to strap on this long trade on Bitcoin. I had identified the levels that I was watching last night through London Kill Zone. And as you can see on the chart here, we actually broke the bottom of this formation, then jackknifed straight up. So unfortunately for a guy like me, my count of the lows, because this low here made a lower low, I'm actually sitting at count 2 again. So I've got to wait for some sort of W to come in here before I get my third low. And I actually kind of like that, because now, if she can W on the other side of this trend line, it'll be nice and clean, and that'll be a nice LJ long signal as well. So for a guy like me, and considering the way risk is acting right now, it looks to me like this market is bounded. Top of the range, bottom of the range, and I think we got to do some more constructive work here before I start getting too overtly bullish or bearish. For that matter, we held this low here, 89.17. The low on this bar, 89.50. So technically, we still could work our way higher here, but I got to see some sort of signs of W on the other side of this trend line now for me to get rah bull. And then sort of to finish off that, I've been watching this BNB fairly closely. This was a pretty well-defined harmonic tag level, PRZs, divergences, structure. You can see the short trade metric is just sitting here doing its thing, and my hunch is that this guy here's actually got our fate in store. So I'm watching BNB really closely. If it can break this top, then I think okay, we can move higher. But at the moment, it's still actually technically working a down pattern. So that's sort of what I see happening in the broader market this morning. We will turn Julian loose now, and what's really cool is, all I want is Julian just to tell us what's on his mind. If it contradicts with anything that I see, awesome, because I want to know that. And of course, if we agree on something, then that's probably a half decent idea for you guys to chew on. So, Mr. Julian, I will click on you. You have your presentation. Oh, you're doing the camera in camera trick. Very impressive. So I will minimize my screen. We will put you over here. And now we're looking at infinity of my screen. So I'm going to sit back and listen, and you tell me what's on your mind. You've got the floor. Go!
Okay, so I like to start with the S&P. And just so everyone knows, if you hear any background noise, I apologize in advance. Like Brian said, I'm kind of in a coffee shop. There's no one in here. Well, there's one girl in here, but it's pretty quiet. But if you hear any loud noises, I apologize. It just means, maybe drunk people came in or something. But let's start with S&P. So on the daily chart, this RSI is we've got this solid uptrend here. And we've got a bit of a pullback. We did hit a 9 a couple days ago. I mentioned this last week. I did not expect us to go above and sit above the 300 level. This is a surprise for me because we did have this resistance here we were looking at last week, and I did take a short here. I put on a put. I bought one, and I'm still holding it. But I am surprised that we had this push. Maybe the market knew that the Fed was going to lower interest rates, and that's what caused the push here. Donald Trump does not want the market to go down. I think everyone knows that. And he's definitely pushing the Fed to lower interest rates to keep the market from heading lower. But we do have, and I'm sure, Brian, you've talked about this, we do have this gap down here. And this gap needs to be filled. And that's what I'm looking for my put trade. I just want to see the gap filled here, and then I might close it out. I'm not sure yet. Maybe if we recapture this downtrend, then I'll reevaluate. It's kind of like predicting the weather here. I've got to see what happens over the next couple of days before I can give a clear prediction. If we look at the options here, we see there's a huge wall at 302, and then we've got a big wall of calls, a big wall of puts at 300, and a big wall of calls at 302. So you can reasonably predict that tomorrow it's probably going to be like, I know it's crazy, right? Look at that, 125,000 calls and 135,000 puts.
Well, I think you got a pretty good idea where this market's going out tomorrow.
Somewhere between 300 and 302 is where it's going to close.
That's remarkable, eh?
So it's probably going to head down a little bit. If we zoom in here, let's go to a lower time frame, 1 hour. Probably go down a little bit, maybe like here. You could even go as low as here, and boop, right there, and then just something like that tomorrow. That's what you'll probably have going through tomorrow. And you can even see on this trend line, if I draw this more, let's move this here. You can see it's already breaking down. You've got this RSI breakdown here, right here, just setting up for the move down tomorrow in the 300 area. They're not going to let it go below 300 though.
Yeah, maybe like Monday morning.
What's that?
I noticed if you go back to your daily chart, I noticed some technicians this morning when they were doing their write-ups, they were saying that this gap here at 295 is basically your tell. And I do find it interesting that that's going to basically be the middle of your Keltner channels level. So technicians that I was reading this morning were saying that that gap level has to hold, and if the market closes below that gap level, then we're back into the bear.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's what I'm looking for. But going into tomorrow, I'm only thinking, somewhere between 300 and 302.
Yeah, well, especially with that put open interest. I mean, that's pretty much just, that's, to me, I can't see why they would let that market go out below that strike price. Just
No, they would.
they ain't gonna
It's
let
not
it
gonna
happen.
happen.
147,000. That's a hell of a lot of hookers on the
That's a lot
weekend.
of money. What?
No way they're gonna let that kind of money slip through their fingers.
Ryan, PG-13. PG-13.
What? Hookers isn't a swear word, is it? But nonetheless, I hear what you're saying. All right. What do we want to attack next?
All right, my favorite one, the fake meat.
Well,
company.
you know what? I got to show you a chart that I think looks exactly like Beyond Meat right now, but 2 or 3 years after the fact. So when you're done telling us what you
Look,
think
it's
of.
already down to 85. We said last week it was going to go down to 85. Remember we talked about this?
Yeah, this was pretty well telegraphed.
Look, it's going to go to 85.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I took that short at 160. Oh,
Did you?
God.
I remember
take
we
that?
did
I've talked about this a million
AB.
times.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's the ABCD we made. Look,
Yeah.
I'll do it again.
But let's see if I'll just see if I can find you. You know, like you guys remember the 3D printing industry was all the rage there a few years
Like
ago.
78 is where the ABCD went to, and we got to 80, basically 80.
Yeah. So Kevin, what was that symbol that we were looking at before we started up? And I was like, holy crap, that looks like what was it? It was Jet or something like that. Kevin, are you here?
VJet.
VJet. Is that what it is? So I have on the screen now. I don't think you can see it, Julian, but this is actually what I think that the Beyond Meat's fate is going to look like.
Oh my God.
I don't know whether you can see that or not. Can you?
I can
that?
see it. I'm looking at it.
Do you see the similarities here? And everybody, you got to learn this, right? You know, when the 3D printing industry first came out, it was just as hot as Beyond Meat and all that. And I mean, look at the similarities here. You see? I mean, it looks almost identical. You know, and you want a fun project, just do these side by side. But, you know, like we were doing AB equals CDs off Beyond Meat there a second ago. And all I want to do is I just want to show you guys how bad can get. So, you know, there is sort of the AB equals CD suggesting that this thing needs to come down to these levels. And, you know, basically, you know, I just quickly eyeballed this, but pretty much that's what this bottom is. But this is what I'm worried about for the Beyond Meat people, right? So we come down, we hit technical objectives, and everybody's like, oh yeah, that's it, it's over. But look at what happens. Now let's zoom out to today, and let's see what this chart looks like in comparison. You can actually see that there is that AB equals CD, but look how much pain these people have gone through over the past, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 years of this thing doing absolutely nothing. And yet, you know, these
that's
three...
what some altcoin charts are going to look like.
Pardon me?
I'm worried that's what some altcoin charts are going to look like.
I'm not worried. I know most of these altcoin charts look exactly like this. And we were even joking earlier. How many altcoins did you see do this right out of the gate? So it's just an interesting anecdote. Let's go back and look at that Beyond Meat chart again of Julian's, and just be careful here before you're like, all right, this is it. This is the bottom. I'm gonna go 100x long. I mean, this thing could still go an awfully long way lower. So,
yeah, I wouldn't touch it. I just like talking about it being consistent.
Yeah, now kind of like what we saw with Bitcoin. You know, hits AB equals CD objectives. Could we have a nice technical bounce? Look where Julian's Keltner channels are. I mean, this thing could bounce up a bit here. And also, too, look at his RSI study. It's trying to break this downtrend here.
Let's try and put in a little W here.
Yeah. So this isn't a stock I'd be even the slightest bit interested in. I have no interest whatsoever in eating insects. But, I mean, I suppose if this thing does tickle your fancy, there might be a trade here down the road to play that bounce. But just be careful here, just like that 3D printing stock I showed you. All right, sir, sorry to interrupt, but I thought this was a really interesting anecdote that I wanted to show people.
It's a good lesson for anybody watching.
Yeah.
All right, Tesla. I like to talk about Tesla every week. You know, Elon Musk, favorite guy.
Did you see the
So
news?
Tesla had
Are you going to go get a Tesla roof?
earnings. No, I'm not. I'm not.
No, they're going into the roofing business.
I'm not surprised. They go into a million different businesses.
Yeah, Elon Musk the other day was saying he wants to install 1,000 new roofs at 40 grand a piece a year out of this new business unit.
The solar roofs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been doing that for a while.
Well, no,
That's
now.
part of solar.
Well, anyway, I mean, I was just reading in the rags. This is sort of his latest thing. Is it's all you just one purchase order, buy me a roof, and they come and they give you a whole new roof with solar panels and everything all built into it. So, but anyway, sorry to interrupt. Please continue.
Oh, it's okay. Maybe that's why earnings took off. I didn't even follow the earnings. I just try to stick to the technicals. I kind of ignore earnings and any kind of fundamentals like that. You guys know that.
Well, they actually came out and said that they're earning money now. Imagine that. Actually,
That's probably why the stock went up. That would make sense. But we've got this big gap here now. I want to see this filled. This has got to get filled.
That's probably
I'm
when
gonna
the news comes out that their roofs leak.
Yeah. I'm going to look for something like this. And then I'm going to look for a fill.
So you want to be a buyer here?
And then the RSI comes down here like this, and then maybe we move higher. It depends on what happens with the rest of the market. As long as the S&P, if I want to see the S&P do the same thing, the S&P's got to come down. So the S&P is going to do the same thing. You're going to get our move down tomorrow, and then maybe we'll get a farther move down to hit this gap, and then maybe it moves higher. We'll see. I've got to reevaluate when we get here. This will be next week's discussion.
Cool.
Same with Tesla. So maybe with Tesla, we'll be here next week, somewhere around the 295 level or something. And then we'll reevaluate then.
Okay.
You know how it is. It's like predicting the weather, like I said. You can only predict so many days in advance. Then you got to look at it again.
Yeah, and frankly speaking, I don't think anybody should get into the job of predicting markets because you might be right a few times, and then people are like, and then you're wrong once, and fucking everybody just shits on your head.
Our jobs as technicians are kind of to try to figure out where the market's going based on technicals, right, and our trading plan. So I've just got to look at what I see and what I think might happen, and then I'll say whether I think it's good enough to take a trade or not. Now, on Tesla, I don't have enough clear signals to take a trade. So I'm very clear that I'm not taking a trade on this, but this is what I think will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Same with S&P. I do have this put short here, but if I knew it was going to bounce to 302, I don't know if I would have put it on. But now I'm in the trade, and I do expect a retracement. So I'm gonna hold it for now. All right, let's go to gold. We had a nice week with gold last week, right? I had my beautiful short up here. I got into a beautiful short at around 515, and I sold it at 494 when gold started to turn around.
Nice.
I made a pretty good profit,
Good.
so I'm happy with my trade. I was hoping we'd head lower. I really wanted to see us head down to the 1460 area, but it bounced. And let's go to the 1 hour time frame. So you can see how we had this big rally here. Turn around, that conveniently came after the Fed said they're lowering interest rates. What a surprise. Gold rallies after the Fed said they're going to lower interest rates. Is anybody surprised by that? I'm not surprised. Although I have a friend that said the Fed announcements and lowering or raising interest rates he said he looked back going like 50 years and there's been no correlation between the two. I don't know if I believe that. Yeah, he said there's no correlation between gold rallying and interest rates being lowered. I don't think that's true. I think when interest rates are lowered, gold does over time rally. Maybe not in the short term, but in the long term, I think gold heads higher.
Never actually done a correlation, but I think you could make the argument that lower interest rates is going to help the economy, which may lead to more inflation. And also, too, if the Fed's going to lower interest rates, then the propensity to own U.S. dollars and just park your money in T-bills, that sort of push is lessened. So if you're not going to go buy U.S. Treasuries, then what are you going to do with your money?
Exactly.
And really ask your buddy if he's ever studied the correlation between Japanese yen and gold. Because what I see is if I was going to watch a currency pair for correlation, if people are not interested in owning the US dollar but are still fearful, where are they going to put their money? And they often run into the Japanese yen. Um, yeah, like I said, it'd be kind of cool to ask your buddy, does he ever study the correlation between yen and gold?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So,
Okay, so
not a big
one
surprise.
hour.
I guess the question ultimately
Yeah.
here is off the higher time frames. Are you still thinking to fade this, or are you actually thinking long now?
Well, here's the problem. So on the daily chart here, we've got a breakout of this RSI downtrend.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I really like this big long-term RSI downtrend here. This is the big trend that's been going on. Now, my concern here is we've got the beginning of a new rally. Maybe see how we had this huge rally. Now we're going to get a new rally. That's my concern, especially since look at this. The Kellner channel finally caught up. We've got Kellner channel support here now.
Yeah.
So we've got this big support, and I'm worried that we're gonna get this move where it's gonna maybe do something like this, and we'll take off and go higher.
Well,
I
worry. I suppose if you're short, good to be worried, but maybe this sets up a long opportunity in gold. We're finally out of that seasonal disaster area for gold. So, like over the next couple months, we could set a base and like Marat just said here, looking kind of bull flaggy. Might be interesting to throw some bot levels on there, see if the botters will be interested. Um,
yeah, I'm not really an expert at trading the bot though. So.
yeah, well, yeah. So your daily RSI study there does look very interesting to me. Probably our worry about absolute face plants in the gold market is probably we don't have to get too worried about that now. I think probably the big vulnerable market through that whole thing was the bonds, and they got hit hard.
Yeah, but it's just crazy that the whole time, like August, September, you were talking about gold looks like a train wreck, and now it's sat here for so long. Now it looks like okay, well, it's kind of created a base.
Yeah. Well, and the issue with the market is the market's going to do whatever the damn thing wants to do. So it's not really our job to tell the market where to go. It's if we happen to be walking into seasonally dangerous periods, I think it's a good idea to be cautious. Sometimes, kind of like your Tom DeMark, you notice that it'll hit a 9. Sometimes it will just reverse violently and you go, holy shit, see, that was a 9, man. You should have been a buyer. You should have been a seller, right? Sometimes it hits those 9s and it just goes sideways. So same sort of logic. The caution flags were raised, and I think being cautious in that space was the right thing to do. But it looks like that's played itself out. Now, I don't know whether I'm ready to start getting uber bullish here on gold, but especially since you are trading this, and fading that rally was just such a beautiful trade. Curious to see what's here. So you're not so interested in fading this rally now. Is that correct?
Oh, I'm looking at it. So I've got a 9 on the 1 hour chart. I've got a 9 already.
Oh, speak of the devil.
Stop. Speak of the devil. Here, I circled it.
Yeah, interesting.
Right here. And I've got this RSI uptrend that's kind of seems like it's running out of steam. Is running out of steam, getting some M's here. I want to see an M put in like this. Boop, boop, bounce off this level, boop, boop, and then head lower. So if that looks like that,
it'd be really interesting is to go and look at the option open interest on the GLDs.
We can.
Just see if there's a mark that they want this market to go out at tomorrow.
Not really. Look at there's calls are really low in comparison to puts. They wanted it above this 138 level. That might explain the rally. So let's look at GLD. 138. I'm correct. That's really far away. Yeah, see, 138's down here.
Okay, well that makes sense. They have no interest whatsoever in this thing going out down below there. Where do they want to put a cap on this thing?
141 would be beautiful. Anywhere below 142, and look at where it is, 142.5.
Yeah. So and it'd be interesting. Can you go look at? Can you go look out on the next series and see where the next open interest levels?
Tons of calls at 142.
Yeah.
And the 15th. Whoa.
That's probably the big monthly expiry, eh?
Yeah.
When's the month? November's a weird month because
it's my birthday. That's why.
The 15th is your birthday?
13th.
13th. Ah, okay. So yeah, the 15th is that big monthly expiry, so we can see quite a bit more open interest in there. Yeah. So over the short term, I think it explains sort of the gold price. They wanted to keep it above a certain level. It looks to me like they just do not want this gold to go back below 137, 138, eh?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so, I mean, in a weird sort of way, we could have used that options information, too, to sort of give us a tell of where sort of the worst case scenario for gold is in the short term. And, as your data pointed out, I don't think this thing was going to go through that one. It certainly wasn't going to settle below 138. So.
Yeah, so tomorrow I can see it around maybe 142. We're at 142.4, so maybe 142, which I think on XAU, I think would be like 1506, 1507. This area here. So that's going in tomorrow, and then after that, I think it's just gonna kind of sit around here for a while.
Okay.
It's just ranging. That's kind of my thinking.
Yeah, makes sense.
I don't really have any clear trades. Not like last week.
Okay, cool. And actually, that's the sign of a pro, everybody. Get to the point where just if there isn't anything set up, you just say, look, I don't have a setup here. Sorry. Gotta wait.
Exactly. So, yep, that's where we are. Let's go to Thai Bot, my favorite thing.
Thai Bot.
Unfortunately, it is still not rallying. It's just sitting here. We've got our 9 on the daily that put the pause in. It's starting to put a W in down here on the RSI. Histograms putting in no confirmation, but it's slowly putting in a bit of a divergence is forming potential. But it's just kind of sitting down here. We're still in quite the downtrend. If I go to the weekly, you can see it's just bear for me. No real turnaround here yet. I really would like it to turn around because the more this goes down, the more expensive everything gets in Thailand. So, yeah, that's it on the Thai bot. No trade, no real resolution, it seems here. But I do hope it will turn around at some point. It makes sense that it's basing. But the Keltner channel just keeps following it down and creating lower and lower resistance levels for the Thai bot versus US dollar. Okay, Bitcoin. Let's jump to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is very interesting here. This is a 4-hour chart, by the way, guys. The daily. I looked at the daily, and I don't really have much. I've got this big, I had this big RSI downtrend that I thought meant like Bitcoin's going to fall down, it's going to fall apart, but it reversed and it broke out of my downtrend. And so now I'm like, I'm not sure what's happening here. That's why I'm going to the 4-hour, because in the daily, I don't have much. So on the 4-hour, we had this rally, right? And it broke through. It didn't create a trend. Oh God, sorry for the loud noise. They're cleaning here. What's happening? So I had this downtrend in the RSI, and I also had an uptrend. It broke through the uptrend, and then we had this downtrend, and now it broke through the downtrend. And now I'm thinking that it could potentially do like an ABCD here, where we have something like this. Where we rally up to 12,000 potentially.
Could be. There's a gentleman on Twitter right now who's going to get.
Sorry, I stopped. I had to make off.
There's a gentleman on Twitter.
That's the potential I'm seeing.
Can you hear me? Am I connected?
I don't know. Part of me doesn't believe it. I really don't. So I'm kind of confused on Bitcoin, but the daily chart and the 4-hour are all pointing kind of bullish for me from an RSI perspective. I'm trying to get a daily. What? Hello?
I tried to say something there a few minutes ago, but you didn't hear me. Kevin says that he can hear me. I'm not quite sure what's happened to Julian's audio here. Thanks, Kevin, for letting me know that you can hear me. I don't know. Julian, are you there? Julian! Can you hear me? Oh, I think we lost Julian.
Hello? Something happened with the internet here.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we could hear you the whole time.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what happened. Is my screen even presenting?
Yes, it is.
Share. It says I'm not presenting.
Oh, you're not presenting anymore.
So
there you are.
Okay, so my general feedback on Bitcoin is that on the daily and the 4-hour, I'm getting bullish signals, but for some reason I don't trust them. So I'm kind of just sitting. I have a portfolio with some Bitcoin, but I'm hedged, so that basically no matter what direction Bitcoin moves in, I don't really have any movement in price direction. I don't really have any movement in my actual portfolio. So I'm neutral on Bitcoin right now. I'm not long and I'm not short.
Okay.
I want to see further development. It's just something seems weird here. I'm getting, I don't know. I'm getting weird feelings about this. I can't really explain it. I just feel like this is a trap.
Well, there was a gentleman who was calling for $16,000 Bitcoin by the end of today. So we'll see if his prediction plays out. Okay, looks like we got a communication issue here, so maybe we can work on this going forward. As you can see on the
16,000 by the end of today, seriously.
Hey, there he's back. Why don't you... Can you hear us, Julian?
I check your screen.
Well, we're watching
I switched you to my
going
phone
all
Wi-Fi
over the
because
place. And the communication here is horrible.
Oh, okay.
So why don't you just finish your
sorry.
presentation, and as soon as you're done, say I'm done, and then we will pass the ball back to Brian.
Okay, so Bitcoin, you heard my thoughts. My thoughts on altcoins here are that, on the weekly chart, I only like to look at the weekly chart on these. I think we're still in a downtrend. You can see we haven't broken above this RSI trend line. I want to see us break above that. And until that happens, I'm not really playing with altcoins much. Although I do think it's interesting we're putting a W in price here. But it needs to confirm. I need to see a confirmation above here. Okay, I'm going to go on mute. There's a lot of noise here. I'm sorry, guys.
That's okay. Well, thank you for the presentation. You tried your best, I suppose. We will stop screen sharing Julian's screen, and we will pop back on over to Brian's. And let's see how we're going to do this. I got to figure out how to put my head on straight here. There we go. Okay, so we will. This is Julian's presenting right now. Still sort of getting used to this different mod. Okay, so Julian has now gone off, so we will head back to here. Yep, Peter's giving you some accolades here. Thank you for the presentation, Julian. All right, so we're a little bit ahead of schedule here this morning. Maybe we'll do just a shorter daily brief today since Julian is having technical issues. Is there anything in particular anybody would like to take a look at here? Does anybody have any trade ideas that they're kicking around? As we said, the conversation around the stock market today. I had Mars, sorry guys, just too much noise here on Halloween. And maybe if we're really lucky, Julian can work towards doing a pre-recorded presentation. And then that way we kind of like the Down Under report that the boys in Australia do. It's nice and seamless. So why don't we bid Julian an adieu here. Thank you very much for your presentation and your participation on the call. And why don't you head off and have yourself an awesome Halloween. Oh, John M. wants to join us. Hello, John M. So, reiterate the message right out of the gate this morning. It looks to me like risk off is catching a nice bid here this morning. Risk on is coming off a chunk. You can see, though, even as we've been talking here, the bonds, they've calmed down a bit. The gold's calmed down here a little bit. Yen's calmed down. Oil's come back up a bit. Bitcoin looks like it's backed off, and stocks are heading lower. Somebody asked just, could I review that I want to be a day trader model right now? I don't know whether you can see. I've been watching this 4-hour chart flip over bear here overnight, which was interesting, right? So that basically the bear signal came in on this triple top failure here overnight. So as a result, day traders been this past week, and it was interesting just following the 1 hour institutional moving average signals, and you can see how they flipped bullish here, bearish, bullish, bearish. I mean, it's been really choppy. I would say this market is not trending strongly. We had the big jump, of course, and then basically we've just gone sideways here. So as a result, as of sort of mid yesterday, especially on this 4-hour failure here, the day trader model's just gone on pause. And really, in simplest terms, as you can see, still doing lots of sort of notations. What are good sort of notes to keep working forwards. I have of late been including a condition that the 1 hour has to be pointing in the same direction for me to start taking trades. So, with the 1 hour turning back bearish here yesterday, and that's sort of this notation, and then now the 4 hour turning down overnight. Basically nothing to do here. 1 hour turned back up bullish on that big spike that we talked about first thing this morning. So the day trader's sort of just waiting for this 4 hour to turn back up. So that's sort of what's going on with the day trader right now. Aside from 1 hour sort of rule inclusions, sort of working with the 1 hour signals. The 4 hour, because the 4 hour turned down bearish. And it's kind of interesting, in Julian's report, he even said getting some really wishy-washy signals, very choppy. And I really like that sort of sentiment right here. So day traders, because they've got conflicting signals, they're doing nothing right now. We did have algo signals fire yesterday. You can see all these uber bearish readings. Uber bear, I'm an uber bear. Look at me, I'm a uber bear. What's fascinating is that this model was, extremely active through the trending market. And then I noticed that as we're sort of getting down, into ranging type of market states, that this thing's not firing that many signals. And really, I might argue we had a bearish signal in here, but there was already a short working. So there's not really much new to do there. Got some new bearish readings here. Interesting how we got a cute little bullish reading here as we were coming into that triangle apex. You remember all that craziness. So the little uber bullish readings here produced this rally. Then we promptly rolled right over. Big spike. Of course, this is a trend following model too. On the sort of outlier flash rallies within a bear market, the algo's not going to see that move. But interesting how following that event, all of the indicators all now started turning back down again, and we start getting all these crazy bearish readings. So on this bearish uber reading here, we did have this M come in, so I slapped on the trade metric, and frankly speaking, I don't see anything to be done on this. It just looks to me like it's just working away. We'll see. Only time will tell. If I was a betting man and somebody said, place your bets, what do you think's going to happen? I would have to say down, because this low was lower than this low. We do have M's. This is a V bottom, V bottom, V bottom, M, especially this right here, M. We're getting close to this big honkin' M here firing, but that has not come in yet. I don't like Ledger X has options, Deribit has options. It might be interesting to see whether there's any options related information about this market that might explain. My hunch is somebody's got a vested interest to try and keep this thing above $9,000 into tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. Only time will tell. It is interesting that with the risk off assets, and it looks like risk off just got another shot in the arm here. With them rallying, and then the risk on assets, stocks look definitely very heavy here, and oil, of course, is completely crapped out. Really good analogy there on the oil of this trend line, I think, is dominating price action right now. So we were rejected at this trend line tag and working our way lower here again. With this backdrop, I actually find it very hard to believe. Where the hell did it go? I find it very hard to believe that Bitcoin can really buck this overall move. And as I sort of was saying while Julian was giving his presentation, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek. This is why I think it's really dangerous to ever really get into the business of predicting markets. In that, you might be right a few times, and then everybody's like, okay, this guy's made the big call. October, we're supposed to hit 16,000 Bitcoin. Does it happen? I don't know. I used to have a crystal ball, but I broke it. So now I'm just flying blind. That's the old joke. So, from the actual crypto community, I think you're getting a lot of sort of impetus, incentive. Let's get this thing up. Let's get this thing up. But she's just running into brick walls here. I'll tell you, last night, If these lows had held and we had ticked up through here, I probably would have been a buyer. I have the OKCoin account all up and running. I went and did some calculations of capital outlay, and Joshua and I we were kind of joking yesterday about how we still can't quite figure out how many contracts, what position size do you have to put on to risk $50, and then if you're right, 2 to 1s, make $100. And Joshua was sending me messages last night. So have you figured this thing out yet? And I'm like, no, I haven't figured this out. It drives me crazy. So, the latest incantation of my efforts here is I went through, and I don't know whether I have the math here done correctly, but if I do strap on this is how I'm going to report this trade if I can find the damn screen. I got it around here somewhere. Where the hell is it? Anyway, if I do the trade, of course, I'll, include all of these. But I went through and did all the commission calculator and all the, I think these are them. So I'm thinking of strapping on 50 contracts over on OKCoin. From that was that 93.85. I mean, you can see how close I was to pulling the trigger on this 93.85 level. Where did the screen go? So if I do 50 contracts at 10 times leverage, basically that means this is supposed to be like $100 a contract. So in essence, that's $5,000 or basically a half a Bitcoin. So 10x leverage means I'm going to have to put on 0.05 BTC, and our stake is around a full Bitcoin here on this exchange. So basically, put 5% of my portfolio at risk. If I'm correct, then 2 to 1 produces this 57% return, or basically a gain of 0.03 BTC. If I'm incorrect, then let's say this bottom fails, right? And this was assuming that the trade works. And right now, because of this new low, this is off the table. But this was just the work that I did last night to try and figure all this out. So if I'm wrong, then I lose 0.016 BTC, a little less than 2 to 1 risk reward. And it's interesting. Like, I went through all the math and stuff like this. The fees that OKCoin charges, they are almost minuscule in relation to, either making 0.03 BTC or losing 0.016 BTC. I mean, you can see this is going to chew into like, how many decimal places? That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, that's not. Okay, well, there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So, these kind of numbers only affect this 3 number. And remember, I'm going for, if I win and I'm right, then, whoops, where are we here? If I win and I'm right, and if I can get my head on straight, there we are. I make 0.03, but the commissions are going to chew into this 0.0308 number. And when I did the math, it'll bring it down to like 0.0306 or something like that. So I'm not really too worried about the fees associated with this trade. But in essence, you can see the logic. I'm going to throw 5% of my account down at risk. And, if all hell breaks loose, and keep in mind, this is OKCoin. They don't call it the casino for nothing. So you better figure out what your liquidation price is if the all hell breaks loose. And this is sort of that analogy. Don't risk more than 5% of your stake on any one single idea. If this thing it gets margin called, then that 0.05 BTC that I threw down there on the trade, it's bye-bye. But, hopefully you can see the liquidation price is a million miles away from where I'm trading. If alerts go off, stops go off, basically everything operates as normal, then I'm gonna walk away on 91.05 level getting hit, nowhere near this 8,500 number. So, just kind of an interesting sort of walkthrough on this. So, point zero 0.01 BTC is basically going to be like about $100. So on this trade in particular, and I'm still trying to figure this out, this trade basically is saying I'm going to risk about $150, we'll say, for the potential to make 300. Right? 2 to 1. Pretty straightforward. But, this is an ongoing battle, and of course this is on OKCoin. I haven't got a clue how to come up with these numbers on MEX, but I suppose that'll be sort of my next battle that I'll have to try and get through. Okay, so I just wanted to show you guys that. What is this sort of process of running the numbers and trying to figure out what your risk is on the trade versus reward. How you sort of incorporate leverage into your numbers to try and see what kind of capital outlay you're going to have. And then, if the trade idea does work, what does that translate into actual gains? What are your commission considerations? If the trade doesn't work, where am I going to get out? I had already predefined that. And then, of course, where is the liquidation if all hell breaks loose and the casino just totally screws me over and I lose 5% of my account? Where is that number? That's down there. All right, so, as it stands right now, because this is a lower low, it broke that low, this is off the table. This was basically my write-up from last night. I do like the idea of continuing to hunt W's here. There's nothing wrong with that, but, if we're going to do our count, this is 1, this was 2 here, and of course we want 3 higher lows. Now that this low has been broken, that 2 is gone, and now this is my number 2. So I got to sit there and just cool my jets. Just exactly what Julian said, and I like it when we bring on different perspectives, different people that, remember, all of us look at the market slightly differently. I like the fact that he's kind of like, what, I'm just on pause, really screwy action right now, so it just sort of validates what I'm seeing in the market too. And then I think I left off. I really do like the idea. I think that this market is now highly, highly susceptible to, how do we say this? Special interests, maybe. And so, something like a BNB, I think it's an excellent proxy on sort of the health of the altcoin market. As Julian pointed out, we are starting to see some interesting W action coming in on things like alt indexes. So where's our chart? There it is, right? All these cute little W's trying to form. You saw on Julian's chart. So I'm feeling as though, the worst, and this is always a dangerous statement to make, but I'm feeling like the worst of this sort of altcoin nightmare for the past 2 years is behind us, and we're starting to form the base of the next bull. So, we'll see how time goes. Okay, I think that is the top of the hour, so we probably should just leave it at that. Thank you so much, Julian, for checking in on Halloween, which is awfully nice of you to do. Thank you, Kevin, of course, for being an awesome right-hand man, making sure this thing operates and flies smoothly. Have yourselves a good rest of your day. Have a good Halloween. Of course, if you have little ones, be safe. And I'll see everybody on the site through the day. I have, of course, Liam this afternoon, so I'll be gone this afternoon and early evening. But keep your eyes peeled. And, as sort of a final note, remember that this Willy Woo guy, I think this is Willy Woo guy, I'm not sure. But, the crypto OGers are all looking for some sort of face rip rally here out of Bitcoin. I don't know whether it happens or not. And then conversely, if this guy's proved wrong November 1st and everybody goes, oh, this guy's full of shit, then maybe the whole damn thing just rolls over. So play it cautiously here, folks. And as I said, I had some really interesting potential setups all starting to come in there. And with that move to new lows overnight, I've been put back on pause. Okay, have yourselves a great day, everybody. Happy Halloween. Thank you very much, Team TRI, for a great presentation. All the best. And the only thing left for good old Brian to say at this point is a big bye for now.